Well, thank you for your time. My name is McGrady. I am the president and owner of MCM Consulting Group. In Pennsylvania, we work in Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia, Michigan. We do some overseas work. We are a public safety telecommunications consulting firm. We build 911 centers, public safety radio systems. I do your funding for your wireless plan. I do your reconciliations. We did just completed your triennial plan. Last year we worked in 44 counties just in Pennsylvania. So I spoke to Dan about your need for a possibility of an alternate PSAP. And after I spoke with Dan and some of your staff, I went back and spoke with my engineers and my staff. And what I would recommend is you were approved in last year's wireless funding application for what's called a next generation needs assessment strategic plan. So there is funding available through wireless at about 62%. The additional funding would have to come from the wireline account, your VoIP account, or your general fund. And what I would recommend is you would do what's called a needs assessment and strategic plan, where you come in and you look at the current needs of Lebanon County 911 today, what you currently have today, where the future is going, and what it's going to cost to get there. Because before you can decide that you need an alternate PSAP, you have to decide what do we actually need for an alternate PSAP. And so I recommend that you look at your current needs today, where technology is going. The big buzzword out there is next generation 911. We're currently working on a 9-county project in the northern tier of Pennsylvania. It's a next generation 911 project. Down the line, you're going to have text messaging. I have a 15-year-old daughter. I don't know if she speaks anymore because she's always on Twitter, MySpace, or texting. The youth of today expect to text 911. Your current system today can't do that today. Streaming video, telematics. Everybody has OnStar in their car. Do you realize that if you wreck your car with OnStar, they actually know how many people were sitting in that car when the accident occurred because of your seat sensors. They know if the car rolled over. They know if the car deployed. They can only tell you that verbally right now. They actually can't send that information to you. So I would recommend that we look at where your technology is today, where technology is going, including the need for space, the need for an alternate PSAP. An alternate PSAP can be a number of things. An alternate PSAP can be something that just sits there and is never used, or an alternate PSAP can be used for if you have, when your storms came through, when you're getting 4,000 calls in 24 hours. You could actually staff that and have calls answered there and answered at your 911 center. When you have new hires, you could actually train your new hires on the actual equipment there and then bring them into the PSAP when it's time to transition them over. So there's a lot of things that we could look at for you and then provide you a strategic plan for what you need to do today, what you need to do a year, 3 years, and 5 years, and if that includes an alternate PSAP, or that would be part of the actual plan. So in a nutshell, that's what we would recommend that you would look at, and that's what you would do.
And that's at a cost of $59,900?
Correct.
So moved.
Okay.
Second?
Well, I'll second the motion. Can we?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is that the 62% or is that the total?
No, you would about $36,275 would be available on wireless. The rest of that would come
It's
from.
100.
So I feel much. It's what?
I'm sorry, Miss.
So I think proposals were on $59,500
okay.
or so, or $900, and then $36,275 would come from your wireless funding.
Cool.
And the additional funding would come from either your Act 78 funds or VoIP and or general fund, depending on where your finances are.
That makes it easier to second.
Yes. Yes. It's a 6-month process from beginning to end. I'm also going to tell you that. So when we'd start until we'd end would be about 6 months before I could come back with a report. Wireless planning for you, and the ultimate goal with wireless funding is for wireless funding, for every dollar you receive in wireless funding, it offsets something that you would have to take out of Act 78 or the general fund. And so that's why this proposal was put forth, so that wireless funding would pay for 62% of it.
So an important part of your study and the work that you do is how we would fund this,
Yes.
the projects that we need to do. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes, because there's a lot of different sources out there. Now, the money that's available today is not nearly the money that was available 5 years ago. I think we all know that. But I was talking to Dan today, and we just built a 911 center in Elk County. We're actually cutting that next Wednesday. We just finished a needs strategic plan for Clinton County. But one of the things we found out in Clinton County is, they're a rural county in which a large portion of Lebanon County is rural, is that there's actually USDA grant dollars and or low interest loans available for construction projects and things like that. So there's a lot of different sources that we would look for. Obviously, wireline, wireless, voice over IP, grant funding, and then any type of low interest loan that would be available. But that is part of the project. Is yes, we go out because it does no good for me to come to you and say this is what it costs, but not give you resources to fund it.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Any other questions?
No, I really appreciate your presentation, which we had an opportunity to go through, and I'm looking forward to this. That way, hopefully we have a vision for the future,
Yes.
and it's taking everything, the big picture, into consideration, and I'm looking forward to that.
Yes.
I would just say that I feel more comfortable going forward this way than the way we were headed
Path we were on.
at the beginning of our term. So I would much rather have all the information before we make a decision.
We need this technology because there's situations out there, hiking in the mountains, there's no street signs, there's no roads to follow, and I think it's important that we do it right. And I know the County Commissioners Association is looking into this as well. So we'll just be a little ahead of the curve and or be a pilot project for them. Maybe we can get some extra funding at some point. You never know.
I have an additional question. Second part of that being, are any of the needs, do you stage any of the needs? For example, the backup PSAP is a higher priority than, something that might be 2 years down the road. So do you say 2 months into it, stop, come in and visit with the commissioners and say, okay, here's where I am on your backup, this is where I see you need to go, and so there can be something, instead of sitting until the fall, for example.
Typically, we would complete the study as part of that. We'll interview the commissioners and see what your vision, your thoughts are. And so, not only will we interview the 911 center staff and the emergency management staff, we also like to interview select people from the police chiefs, the fire chiefs, EMS chiefs, county government, because the DA, the sheriffs. We'll sit down with the commissioners and see what the commissioners, of course yourself, because you're part of the management team, but we'll sit down and actually interview those. But no, typically we wait till the end and then we give a presentation. We'll actually come and give a presentation as to what we found, give you a full report that you can read through with all the pricing attached to it. But it's a 6-month process from beginning to end for you. And but to answer your question, but we do say there's immediate term needs, which is 0 to 6 months, short term, which is a year, 2 to 3 years, and then 4 to 5 years. So we'll actually lay out the whole plan. We would never come in and say, oh, tomorrow you have to.
Well, and in fact, I guess I'd like to point out that we did get about $56,000 from Exelon, and we're hoping that the portion that we need to fund could come from that money. So that would be a source of our match. And also there was another item that you were hoping to get funded. Must we wait for him to finish his thing before we'll propose that, or is...
No, I guess I didn't come prepared for that tonight.
Okay.
My apologies. Should I address it now?
Yeah.
We got I'm not sure what the dollars are, $54,000. It's actually grant money from Exelon for emergency planning in Lebanon County. I met with Commissioner Litz and I made a couple of suggestions, at least my thoughts on where maybe some of that money should be spent. One of those suggestions would be a CAD module that allow us to run statistical analysis and statistical reports on emergency services and the needs of Lebanon County. We have a CAD system, computer-aided dispatch right now, which basically does things electronically and automatically, but it has some very limited reporting capabilities. I believe that would be a module that would be, a real good investment for Lebanon County. I think it would come in handy in a lot of different ways, not just emergency management, but maybe planning long term, and certainly, projects like Mike's talking about.
If we spend money for that now, will that be compatible with what we're looking at in the future?
Yes, with statistical, yeah. Because what happens is the CAD system is typically, if you are going to a new, like wireless calls or VoIP calls, that's just a software upgrade that changes the format of the screen and allows the data stream that you're sending in. So the answer is yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing that as troublesome to me moving forward in Lebanon County, okay? We talked a little bit before about the radio system and the fact that we're narrow banded. The one thing we are not narrow banded on is paging, digital paging in Lebanon County for first responders. When we narrow band, I anticipate that we're going to lose a little bit of coverage in Lebanon County. We've already got a couple of spots in Lebanon County that are marginal to begin with, one of which would be South Londonderry Township. I would ask the commissioners to consider spending at least some of that money to add an additional paging base to the South Londonderry Township area. I've been working with Exelon on 3 Mile Island on one of their current siren installations in South Londonderry Township. There's a possibility we may get that space or the pole for nothing. There is, like I said, a cost associated with this, probably $16,000 or $17,000, and roughly just in equipment that it would cost us to add a paging base to fill some of our needs or fill some of those weak spots in South Londonderry. So those are the two of the things that I've discussed with Commissioner Litz. My suggestions, they'll be forthcoming, more specific information and more specific dollar values.
Very good. Question? There you go. All in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. So moved. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you for your time.
Yep.